Hello, Targa friends. Hey, everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for another Orc Mode workout. You guys know the drill. Reach down and click like. We have to keep the likes higher than the dislikes. We haven't been doing that lately. I've noticed the guys are going a little crazy with their bot this week, so let's get those likes in. So, people are going to say, Jason, why no max today? I just finished my deload. Just got home. I noticed last time when I did my deload and then got through all the hustle and bustle of getting everything sorted, and sometimes my sleep isn't the best sometimes due to life events going on around me when I deload on the very last day. So sometimes I'm off a little bit. And I noticed last time I really struggled with the max. Right, I missed a lift that should have been really, really easy that I've crushed and blown out of the water afterwards. Right? Since then, during that same training phase, absolutely destroyed the lift that I missed by a pretty large margin. So I'm just going to skip the first max and let's just do the accessory work. So I'm going to do the work I would do on a squat day, get all my volume in, get everything moving again, and then we'll start back into the max work tomorrow. And then we'll go into the normal training. Just one day to kind of get back in my groove. And in terms of progress, this is a lot of hypertrophy. 5 sets of 10 on the hip thrust. Now, I took them down 10 pounds less than I do normally for sets of 10, but I did 5 sets of 10. I'm about to go over to, on my training, because I'm going to actually have distinct days. Squat, deadlift, bench, and overhead press in a 4-day rotation and then repeating. So each of those lifts is going to get hit once every 4 days with all the supplemental hypertrophy work. I'm going to go back over to around 5 10s for the first supplemental lift. Overhead pressing will probably be more. And then we'll do something like 15 total sets of supplemental work, not counting any additional bicep work, grip work, all that stuff I do. So I want all the work to be a little more specific to the max lift each time, and it'll give me ideal volumes and frequency and everything for every muscle to grow. Work on all my weak points. And so I'm going to mess with 5 10s on one primary exercise after each lift, and then everything else will be a lot more volume-ish supplemental work, right? Be a lot. So we'll do all the other stuff the way I've been doing it, because I've been doing a lot of 15s, 20s, sometimes even more for supplemental lifts. But we do need to get one exercise in each day with a good 5 by 10 and try to progress on it. On an exercise is going to give us the most muscle growth related to our main lift. So I did that, and then I went over to my good mornings. I won't be doing as many good mornings coming up in the future, not because they're not a good exercise, but because a lot of what I'm doing with them for now could be slightly redundant because I ordered a reverse hyper. I'm probably going to use it every single day. All right, that will be my main erector hypertrophy movement. Not to say that all this other stuff doesn't work, the erectors, but I feel like with the amount of rowing I'm doing, because all my lower body days we're doing, like right now, 5 by 15s that I switched over to. Keep in mind that's every other day. So one week that's 15 sets, the next week 20. All right, that's a lot of upper back work. Then there's carryover upper back to all the other stuff I do. All the overhead pressing, all the deadlifting. I'm getting plenty of back training. Not going to be an issue. So I don't necessarily need all the middle and upper back. I get a lot of that, even the hip thrust actually works, some of the mid back. So I'm going to do the reverse hyper, and I'm going to do more glute ham raises. I'm going to start focusing really hard on the glute ham raise also, because I feel like when I'm watching the movements on my heavy deadlifts, you guys watch where I slow down and then drive through. Okay, that's a potential hamstring weakness. Now, keep in mind weakness is relative. A lot of people say, Jason, there's no world in which it's remotely imaginable you have weak hamstrings. Yeah, I have hamstrings strong enough to deadlift 605, clean and hold it at the lockout, like we saw just over a week ago, right? But of course I don't have weak hamstrings. I don't have strong enough hamstrings to deadlift 650 right now. Therefore, they're a potential weak link. So I feel like all the glute work, you know, the hip thrusts, glute bridges, all that covers a lot of stuff I need. The reverse hyper is going to handle my low back. The rows handle all the upper back and then the other supplemental work. So all these muscles I need to deadlift are going to be covered. I'm doing tons of grip specialization. Grip is one of my highest priorities in forearms. We're doing all that. We're doing all of that. That's already in the mix. Hamstrings have to come up. All right, the glute ham raise is probably, arguably, let's say that, is arguably the best hamstring builder of all time for complete hamstring development. Now, it's obviously not the only hamstring exercise I'm doing. I'm not saying do hamstrings only with that, because I do hip thrusts, glute bridges, deadlifts, all this other stuff is in there. There is other hamstring work. Even the reverse hyper will hit them. But it really, really hammers them hard. All right, and I feel like that's going to help all my lifting. It's going to help my deadlift tremendously. I could argue even the squat, because of the hip nature of it and the fact that hips tend to be my weak link on squats. People ask me, where do you feel weakest? What's limiting your squat? Well, my 550 squat from getting to 6, probably hip strength. Hip strength. So we need all these movements to strengthen my hips. So I think it'll create the synergy that I want with the other lifts. Really hammer it hard. Really hammer it hard. I feel like it'll take those lifts up to the next level. Deadlift first and then squat second. I feel like the hip thrust alone would probably build most of my squat up from here. But the other stuff won't hurt. And that's the direction I'm going to go. Now, a lot of people say, what about upper body? I have every other workout completely dedicated to pressing and pressing muscles, okay? Because we do all the back training, the real back training is all done on my lower body days. My current training is very upper body dominant. It's just I'll get people who will chime in occasionally. They'll be like, well, you need more upper body work. Why are you doing all this? Well, no, I do more upper body than lower. But I still care about getting to a 600 squat and a 650 deadlift this year. Benching and overhead press are going to take a higher priority. And we'll get to some of that tomorrow. So yes, I want my overhead press to be a high priority too. Let's come back over to that. No one's bench press has ever gotten weaker by getting strong at the overhead press. How's that? A lot of the same muscles are involved. But I'm going to need more dedicated work to the bench on the bench days. They're going to be more specialized. Yes, that means more pec work. Because triceps are going to get worked both days. Some delt work is going to be done both days. They're going to be very, very pec dominant workouts. Floor pressing, other stuff. You guys will see what I'm going to do. Got to bring my chest up. And I've got to work on the wide grip bench. Now, I'm not going to train the wide grip bench. We're not going to do rep work with it. I'm going to do maxes with it. And assess the muscles involved and hypertrophy the weakest links. So we get good at it. But I'm not going to have to do it as often because I'm going to have an overhead press day alternated with it each time. And I feel like that'll keep my shoulders healthy. Then for the rows, I managed to get this today. These are a little tough near the end, having to regrip on all the sets. Because I've taken the same weight, which is basically 150 pounds. Taking the same weight that I was doing 10 by 10 with and trying to do 5 by 15 now. I'm getting a tremendous amount of back work doing that. Because a lot of it with the 10 by 10, I was getting back work. My back was growing. But it isn't quite the work density I might want. And if I regrip it and go ahead and squeeze out 15 with that same weight, I probably get just as much grip work. My back gets a little more work. And I can micro load it from here. So the goal is going to be to take this 5 by 15, add a pound or two here or there with fractional plates, and go ahead and bring it all the way on up. Right? Get stronger at it. Keep my back on point. Keep it growing. Mainly it'll build my grip and forearms more with this axle bar. And people need to remember when it comes to a pendlay row like this, don't add weight if you have to cheat. It's not worth it. Keep it strict. You're going to get more out of it. You're going to be able to do more volume, recover better, get more muscle growth. And I'm not saying tension and weight don't matter. What I'm saying is adding 30 pounds to a barbell just so you can cheat the weight up doesn't stimulate any more growth. That's the point. But when we're dealing with something like this, it does put isometric stress on your low back and everything, which is usually a benefit, can be a training issue. especially when you max on a deadlift every 4 days like I do. That's going to be a problem. This gives us the most bang for our buck, stimulus versus recovery. And if I'm forced to use a slightly wider weight because of the axle bar, hey, even better. Because really my grip is a weaker length than my upper back on my deadlifts anyways. My back is not even remotely close to a weak point. I think everyone who watches, even people who hate me, agree there. I've seen people write, I can't stand Blaha. I can't stand him personally, but dude's got a ridiculous back. I've seen someone write that. I mean, backhanded compliment, but when people who literally write that they can't stand you still give a compliment, you're doing pretty good there. So I'm not even worried about it, and I'm still getting growth stimulus from this. Then we finished off. I did one set of these. Obviously, I'll do more later, and I did these while I was on deload. I always do band work on the deloads. We do band curls to failure. Again, connective tissue growth, connective tissue hypertrophy. We prevent bicep tears. And I had someone ask me, how does this do this? Because of the stretch reflex and the overspeed eccentric. You get an overspeed eccentric at the top. It causes micro tearing in the connective tissue. Okay. The adaptation to that is muscle growth. It makes it grow when it recovers. So I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.